Shoulder! Arms! Forward! Forward! March!
The Civil War was the most traumatic event in American history, which is why these reenactments are like collective therapy.
Are your men loaded? Steady, boys.
A way to work through the trauma of the past
Steady, boys.
in the hope it will never be repeated. But with the divisions in today's America now so deep, some fear the reenactment has outlived its day.
We want brave Georgia!
That the political divide is almost beyond repair, and that violence may once again be the inevitable outcome.
1 in 5 Americans think violence might be necessary to get the country back on track.
I worry about civil war.
Civil war, they want civil war.
The number of people who agree force is justified to restore Trump to the presidency, 18 million.
The culture wars have been boiling up for decades. Abortion, racial injustice, and guns. But many Americans feel something about this moment is different.
America has always been divided, but none more so than now, when both parties feel the other side winning the election is the end of democracy itself, when the rhetoric has become increasingly violent and the rage visceral. Then throw into that the fact that there are more guns in this country than there are people, and the result is a powder keg just waiting to go off.
I want to really see something that says...
And that's what happened on July the 13th. When a 20-year-old man attempted to shoot and kill Donald Trump using an AR-15 style rifle as he was on stage speaking during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The former president escaped bloodied but unscathed, raising his fist into the air and mouthing, "Fight, fight." A defiant gesture that's already become a rallying cry for the MAGA faithful.
Fight, fight, fight.
And spread fear among everyone else.
It's made me a little more fearful about being so strong about my opinions.
Mary Roniak lives not far from the site of the shooting. She says the attack on Trump has crystallized her belief that the toxic combination of guns and anger is much more likely to spill over into violence.
The fact that we're having an attack on a political candidate, it's very disturbing, it's very frightening. The ready access to guns and people having such strong emotions on both sides of the fence, you don't know what's going to happen.
And the access to guns is obviously all pervasive at a time when the politics is heating up and probably as angry as it's ever been, as divided as it's ever been.
Yes. People who show interest in politics can be afraid of being targeted.
Mary prays for an America with fewer guns, but so many others in this country believe that more arms is the only option.
The next 4 years are going to be a show no matter who wins or loses, because both sides are going to feel cheated. Both sides are going to feel like this country is going to go to hell no matter who wins.
Steve Clark's family has been running this gun store in Virginia since the 60s.
Shooters, eyes and ears. Firing line is now hot. You may handle your weapons at this time.
He says the gap between those on the right, like him, and those on the left is now so vast, it's almost impossible to find common ground.
If they can't make me understand them, and I can't make them understand me, how are we going to get there?
But where does that go?
Ugly.
What does ugly mean? How do you
It could be a war. Honestly, I'm afraid that this could be a war.
At the University of Virginia, it's talk like that even has historians on edge. Caroline Janney is a professor of the Civil War and says she sees parallels between then and now.
There's certainly similarities in the rhetoric that's being used. I think lawmakers in 1860 didn't really believe that white Southerners would reject the results of an election. And when they did, that's how we ended up in a civil war.
And do you see parallels as an election looms in November with the tension that is alive in America today?
Yes, in that I fear that Americans take democracy for granted, and we assume that elections are going to go smoothly and that people will accept them.
But why have we got to this point where people like you are being interviewed by people like me talking about parallels with the Civil War?
Well, that's what's incredibly frightening to me. We are not there yet, but we need to be on guard.
Company commanders, inspect your men.
No one's talking about a full-scale civil war.
Left, face.
But a rise in political violence and civil unrest is what has Americans, even these reenactors, on edge.
Forward!
We've seen quite a decline in people's behavior and civility.
The division's then much more deeply ingrained in the culture. We're not there at that point yet. I don't think we'll get to that point, hopefully.
But in the wake of an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate, and with an election looming in November, hope is something everyone's clinging to.